Hello, dragonflies! Welcome to the Gilmore Gals podcast, where we take a deep dive into each episode of the beloved show.
We're your hosts, Sarah
and Ani.
We're huge Gilmore Girls fans, and we're besties. In this podcast, we talk about everything Gilmore, from the pop culture references to the tiniest minutia only a true Gilmore nerd would care about.
Copper boom! Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Ani. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's your week been? Well, a few weeks, actually.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah, I've been busy. I know things have been busy for you as well, too, correct?
Oh my God, crazy busy. Insane. So to our fans, sorry we had to take an extra week. It was inevitable. And we're back, and we're happy to be back.
And if we sound different, it's because we both actually just got professional microphones. And so we hopefully will sound more like actual podcast.
You know, when you have a passion,
yeah, we had to share our love with the people.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, we apologize for the sound quality up until now. Hopefully it'll be better now moving forward. All right. Should we start with a synopsis of today's episode?
Well, first of all, let's start by saying that we are today covering season 1, episode 6, Rory's Birthday Parties, written by Amy Sherman Palladino and directed by Sarah Pia Anderson.
So here's your synopsis. Rory is turning 16, despite the fact that she was already, supposedly 16 in a previous episode of the season. Unfortunately, her birthday falls on a Friday, and Emily refuses to give up her Friday night dinner. Instead, she insists on throwing her a huge party that includes inviting all of Rory's snooty Chilton classmates without consulting her first, of course, because she doesn't really know Rory very well and has no idea that this is actually a nightmare for her. The resulting cold and awkward party atmosphere so upsets Rory that she argues with Emily in front of all the guests and humiliates her. And when Rory tries to apologize, Emily blows her off, which results in Lorelai and Emily getting into an argument. To make peace, Richard and Emily attend Lorelai's more informal and way more fun birthday bash the next evening at her house. While they're there, Emily finds out that Lorelai broke her leg 3 years ago and never even told her parents about it. And Emily regretfully realizes she doesn't know her daughter at all. At the very end of the episode, Dean gives Rory a birthday present, the bracelet we shall come to know well in season 2.
All right, well, we're going to hop right into Fast Facts. We actually have a few very fun and interesting ones for you guys. First up is that the television show The Waltons is mentioned in this episode, and The Waltons is actually related to Gilmore Girls in an unusual way. So first of all, for any of you who aren't familiar with The Waltons, it was a series that ran from 1972 to 1981, and it must have also ran in syndication after that because I remember watching it with my parents when I was little. And it's about a family living through the Depression and World War II in the Virginia mountains. And it was also filmed on the Warner Brothers lot, as Gilmore Girls later was. And in fact, the exterior of the Walton house was the same exterior that they use in Gilmore Girls as the Dragonfly Inn.
That blows my mind that those things are connected that way. I don't even know what to do with that information. So do you remember what color the Waltons house was on the exterior?
I don't remember the exact color, but I don't think it was the same as the Dragonfly, because the Dragonfly was like a yellow, wasn't it?
I think so. Yes.
And I think the Waltons it was like a white, probably.
But think about how long that facade has stood there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. I wonder, the first time we see the Dragonfly in, I think it's season 1, it's all in disrepair. And I wonder if that is actually how it looked since the Waltons went off the air. I wonder if they just kind of left it there and forgot about it and didn't use it for anything.
I don't know. I don't know if it had been used in between the two, because that was like 20 years from the time that I don't know.
We should look it up. So let's see. Next up on Fast Facts, we learn that Rory's full name is actually Lorelai Lee Gilmore, Leigh. In the classic film Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Marilyn Monroe's character's name is Lorelai Lee with an Lee. And she's obviously not blonde, but still an interesting tidbit.
Yes, I thought that was very interesting as well. Next, according to the Gilmore Girls companion, Emily's quote about Luke looking at Lorelai a particular way during this episode was possibly a dig at Gilmore Girls' initial financing by the Family Friendly Programming Forum. That's a tongue twister.
Mm-hmm.
This line is uncharacteristically crass for Emily and may have been a testing of the waters with the network, so to speak. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised that she talked like that.
Yeah, it's not something that Emily Gilmore would say.
No.
It's kind of crude. But I think that's funny because it does totally strike me as something that Amy Sherman Palladino would do, as just like a little dig in there. Like, we're going to put this in and you can't stop me. So I thought this was kind of interesting, though there's always a lot of food around on the set because, the girls are always eating. We rarely ever actually see them take a bite until the very end of a scene. For one thing, it would be a lot of food to consume for the actors, but also it's a continuity nightmare. Having to figure out like when did they take that bite? How much was on their plate before that, etc. And apparently Lauren Graham would often request miniature tomatoes. And I'm guessing by that they mean cherry tomatoes whenever she was expected to actually eat a bite because she could eat them quickly. And then she was ready to say her next line. So, Sarah, from now on, we are on cherry tomato watch.
Excellent. Look forward to that. And we're going to move right along into our recap. Apologies that we're just kind of like plowing through here, but we actually, we have a very long episode this time. So we want to make sure to get as much in as we can without boring everyone to death.
Correct. There's a lot to get through.
The episode begins with Friday night dinner, and Emily announces that their lawyer is going to be coming over for will planning.
So Richard and Emily want Rory and Lorelai to go around their house and stick Post-it notes on anything they want so that they can add those items to their will.
My grandma Morse had us do that.
Really? I thought it was like a rich hoity-toity people thing, but it makes sense.
He was just like, if there's anything you want, just put a Post-it note on it.
Oh, that's sweet. What did you get to keep?
Well, actually, I have a porcelain doll that I had always liked when I was a little kid. So I have that.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's in my bedroom.
Next time I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I used to have a lot of those. For some reason, my mom thought it was a good idea to buy me a collection of porcelain dolls, and they were terrifying to me.
Yeah, this one's not terrifying. It's actually pretty sweet.
Okay, good.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have it.
I was talking to somebody else who told me the same thing. I forget who it was. Oh, it might have been my eyelash girl. Yeah, Alyssa. Shout out to Alyssa. She actually does not enjoy the Gilmore Girls, so she'll never listen to this podcast. But she was telling me that her grandparents had them do that as well, and that she went around and removed her cousin's stuff and put her stickers on them.
That's funny.
That is funny. Lorelai says something quippy. It doesn't even matter what. And Emily,
as she does, yeah.
Yes, as she does. Emily goes, "My daughter, Henny Youngman." So, of course, I had to look into that because I didn't know who Henny Youngman was. Turns out she was a mid-20th century Jewish-American comedian who was known as the king of the one-liner. And two of the most famous ones of his are, "Take my wife, please," and "If a husband is alone in the forest, is he still wrong?" And he had a very long career, including cameos in The History of the World Part 1 and Goodfellas, and a few other things people would recognize. So, Henny Youngman. And apparently Henny means Henry, like a nickname.
Yeah.
Which normally isn't the nickname for Henry Hank?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. The end.
The new maid or cook, who we never get a name for in this episode, brings out pudding for dessert. Lorelai is floored that Emily remembered that the girls like pudding and served it during their fancy dinner, despite the fact that Emily herself is not a fan.
Doesn't she say something like pudding is hospital food?
Yeah. That's what Emily calls it, hospital food.
That's how I feel about Jell-O, like Jell-O gelatin. I can't stomach it. It's hospital food. Like I can't do it. Whereas pudding is amazing.
I'm not a huge pudding fan. I have to be in the mood for pudding.
Yeah, like it's not like my top choice for dessert, but like a really good like Jell-O brand has a cheesecake flavored pudding. Yeah, it's bomb. All right, and even their sugar-free ones are good. I'm just putting it out there. Jell-O, we love you. If you want to sponsor us, we would not mind. All right. So then Lorelai gets Emily alone and asks her to please move next week's Friday night dinner to Saturday because next Friday is actually Rory's actual birthday.
And of course, Emily is not going to budge. She throws in, the fact that, well, we made the agreement that when you came and begged us for money, that Fridays were our night. And she says that they can have a little party for Rory at their house. Little. Remember that word, little.
It's teeny, it's intimate. What, maybe 10 people? Now, despite her best efforts, Lorelai inevitably loses this battle and decides to throw Rory a party at home on Saturday night instead.
So next up, we're at the Independence Inn, presumably the next day, and Lorelai and Suki are in the kitchen planning the menu for Rory's party. I would like to point out that Suki has an orange and a green Band-Aid on her middle finger.
On the same finger, 2 Band-Aids?
It's on the same finger, 2 Band-Aids.
Fascinating.
Yes.
These are things I never notice, even though I know you're looking for it. I don't even think about it. How weird. I get easily distracted by things in the background. Or me? And like people's hairstyle and clothes. And I miss what they say. You know what I mean? That's usually my deal. So Lorelai tells Suki about the pudding at dinner on Friday night. Another sign that Lorelai was really touched by that gesture.
And then all of a sudden, Jackson bursts in and yells to Lorelai, "Open your mouth and close your eyes." To which Lorelai correctly responds with, "Who are you talking to?" And then he moves on to Suki with the same demand, and she, of course, tries it. And we learn that he has cross-pollinated a kumquat and a raspberry.
So at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, this is just me. Melissa McCarthy makes the cutest face I have ever seen on an adult human. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I believe I do, and I will post a screenshot of that on our socials for you guys.
That little face with this sideways mouth, and she's just like, and her big eyes. Oh my God, she's so cute. She has the most expressive face. I love her.
She's fantastic.
Also, I've never tried a kumquat. Have you?
I have not tried a kumquat by itself, but well, our friend Nicole, she is Hey, Nicole. She is kind of a bit of an amateur chef. She can make all sorts of amazing things. And they had us over recently, and she had made homemade jam, and she had also made a kumquat marmalade. It was really good. So I've had kumquat marmalade, but I haven't had a proper kumquat.
Wow, that's amazing. What kind of if you had to compare it to some other fruit, what would it be? What does it taste like?
Yeah, it's not like a berry. It's more of more like a passion fruit, I guess, kind of.
Okay, so more tropically, maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely more tropically.
Interesting. So do we know if Nicole herself is a fan of the Gilmore Girls?
I don't know. I meant to ask her.
Well, if she is, and she listens to this, hello, Nicole. You're amazing. You're what I want to be when I grow up.
She is amazing.
She is.
In the next scene, Lorelai arrives home and sees Rory on the phone.
She pretends to be Rory with a high-pitched voice and says, "And Justin is just so dreamy. He can't marry Brittany. I'll just cry and cry and cry."
And of course, she knows full well that those words would never come out of Rory's mouth. And also, old tech alert, house phones. Nobody has those anymore. Also, ordering a pizza by talking on the phone.
Can you imagine a more horrifying thing?
God, remember when we used to have to talk to people?
Remember that? Oh my God, I hated ordering pizza over the phone. It was the worst. I hated that.
I know.
It's so dumb. But I think some people still have house phones, right?
Some people do, yeah.
I haven't had one in years. How about you guys?
No. Yeah, I think that went away when we moved to California.
We should note for the youngins, this phone call here thing where she goes, "Oh, Brittany and Justin." This is a reference to Justin Timberlake, who once upon a time, 20 years ago, briefly dated Britney Spears. Yes, that Justin Timberlake. I don't think the youngins these days know that.
Well, I'm going to blow their minds even more because do you remember in the 1990s when they were on the new Mickey Mouse Club together?
Right.
And they were children. They were 11. And Ryan Gosling was also on there.
Christina Aguilera.
JC, who was also part of NSYNC.
Nice.
I don't know. There were Carrie Russell.
Yeah, I love her too. But isn't that so weird? I used to watch that show religiously as a kid, but I didn't when like NSYNC came out later on in my life, I didn't remember his face, and I also didn't remember Britney. Did you link those two?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I knew, yeah, I recognized them right away. I didn't really listen to their music that much, but yeah, I knew who they all were.
I totally did.
Yeah.
I loved the bubblegum pop. I still do. I have my Pandora Station 2000s, Oh, so good.
All right. Well, next, Emily actually calls Lorelai and tells her that she wants to go shopping with her to buy a birthday present for Rory.
Lorelai agrees without much pushback, and you can see that Emily's kind of surprised that she didn't have to fight harder for this.
Which I thought was kind of funny. Like, you can see, like, she was ready, she was ready for a battle. She's like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
They agreed to meet at Damien's department store the next day, and we looked into it. It is a fictional store, but if you look around during the scene, it looks like just an average department store. And that's because, according to annotatedgilmoregirls.com, the shopping scene was actually filmed at the Burbank Town Center in Burbank, California.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. A lot of things are filmed at the Redondo Beach Galleria.
Yeah.
Do you remember going there with the gold banisters and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Every time I see like a mall scene, I'm always like, oh, I wonder if that's Redondo Beach,
It feels so weird to know like we lived there and you're still there, but like,
yeah.
In so many movies, like this is a total tangent, but like you guys watched that show, The Lincoln Lawyer?
I haven't yet.
It's on the Netflix.
I want to, because I know you recommended it.
Yes. So season 1's pretty good. I'm enjoying season 2 even more, but they're doing that annoying thing where shows will drop half of the season and then make you wait and drop the other half. So I'm sitting here, chewing my hair, waiting for the second half of the second season, but it's really good. And my point is that, he lives in LA. And so the entire show is scenes from different parts of LA, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but like in a good way. I don't know. It's bittersweet.
We were watching Terminator 2 because I've never seen the Terminator movies.
I haven't either.
So they actually aren't bad. The second one I think is better than the first one. They do a big chase scene on that big bridge there in Long Beach.
The what is it called? I forget now. Thomas something. Anyway, the giant bridge that I went over like every day for years. It connects Pedro and Long Beach. Maybe that'll.
Yes. Vincent Thomas.
Thank you.
Vincent Thomas Bridge.
Vincent Thomas.
Yeah, that was a big tangent.
That was a big tangent. Okay. So during this conversation, Emily refers to Rory's friend, Jane. And this is a runner on the show of Emily not remembering the girl's name correctly or at all. At some point, she even calls her the Asian friend. When it's the season when she's planning Rory's 21st birthday party. And she goes, Rory's Asian friend. And Rory goes, Lane. And she goes, has a boyfriend.
Oh my God.
Like, what is her? She's not openly racist to anybody, but she just, I don't know.
That generation, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, in the next scene, we see Rory at school at her locker, and Tristan approaches her to wish her a happy early birthday.
And to her horror, Rory learns that Emily has sent out elaborate invitations to every person in her class.
We then hear some students in the hallway talking about it being an obligation party that their parents are forcing them to attend. High society, rich people nonsense.
And the very strange song that starts playing during this in Happy Birthday, it turns out it came out in 1981. It's called Happy Birthday, and it's by a Scottish band called Altered Images. So now, I dare you, try to get that out of your head. I carried it around for about 3 days. Oh my God.
Next, we see Emily and Lorelai shopping for Rory's birthday present.
Emily's having a hard time relating to a 16-year-old, and she's picking out things like pearls and other pretentious items that make no sense for Rory.
Lorelai teases Emily, telling her that she's shopping for her imaginary granddaughter, Barbara Hutton. This led me to look up Barbara Hutton. There were a lot of references in this episode that I feel like we had to look up. Yeah, so I had no idea who Barbara Hutton was. And it turns out that she was born in 1912, and she was the heiress of the Woolworth fortune. but her father was a very cold and cruel man. Her mother died when she was 5 of a suspected suicide, and she was sent to live with her senile grandparents, who passed away before she was 10. And she spent the rest of her childhood years bouncing from family member to family member. She had no real close family connection and no friends. At the age of 18, when most of America was suffering from the Great Depression, she threw a lavish coming out party when she inherited her $28 million fortune. In today's money, that translates to a little over $500 million. Her unstable childhood led to an equally unstable adulthood, resulting in a long battle with anorexia and 6 divorces. Her ex-husbands included the actor Cary Grant, 2 princes, and a count. She and her husbands loved to spend her money, but she was known for being philanthropic too, especially overseas. And in her later years, she also became senile and lived in seclusion, wearing her pearls at all times, even in bed. Unfortunately, her lawyer stole most of what was left of her fortune, and she passed away in 1979 at the age of 66. She is interred in the Woolworth Family Mausoleum at Woodlawn Memorial Cemetery in New York City.
That was the reference, was the pearls, right? That was why she said Barbara Hutton?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. That was very interesting.
Yes.
Why was it called the Woolworth fortune if her last name is Hutton?
It was on her mother's side,
Ah,
actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you for that, because I always wondered who she was, and I've seen this episode a million times, and I never bothered to look it up. So thanks. Knowing Rory as well as we do, the stuff that Lorelai says she would like absolutely do not match Rory's personality at all. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
Like that insane guitar case purse, that is something Lorelai would wear, not Rory. So she's probably telling her like, hey, why didn't you get this for Rory? And then she's totally planning on stealing it.
Yeah, I thought that too. We can see that Emily is getting increasingly frustrated by the fact that she doesn't really know her own granddaughter well enough to choose a proper gift for her.
Lorelai reminds Emily that she's been reaching out. She's been making an effort with both of them, and she totally can pick out something special that Rory will like.
Emily picks out some cute little plastic beaded bracelets that light up, and Lorelai tells her that those are perfect.
Now, just as an aside, I used to have many bracelets just like those, but they didn't light up. And you know what? We don't ever actually see them light up in the episode, because really, like, how would that even work? Are they solar powered? Do they have a battery pack attached to them? What do they mean they light up? What do you think?
You know, I think I used to have a set of bracelets kind of like that would maybe light up. There would be like a small, I mean, they wouldn't last long, but there would be like a little battery thing, like in maybe one of the beads or something. And then it could make them like light up.
Okay, well, mine were never that fancy. They were just plastic. But do you remember there was a time period when that was like a big thing? They were everywhere. The plastic.
Those bracelets, the plastic. Yeah. Like see-through. Mm-hmm. Increasingly towards the end of the scene, we can see that Lorelai is actually appearing to be almost enjoying herself with her mother. What is happening?
What is happening? It's very bizarre. And you can tell she's even feeling like, what is happening?
Yeah, she's like, am I in some alternate dimension? What's happening here?
It's kind of sweet, though, you know, after seeing them clash so many times. Well, after a successful day of shopping, Lorelai enters Luke's diner to meet Rory, and she gets there first, and she tells Luke to entertain her until Rory gets there, to which he responds, will you marry me?
And I just gotta say, that whole, like, that little banter there, like, I was watching it, and I mean, did anyone else feel like the temperature got a few degrees hotter when they were watching that scene? I don't know, just like the way he was looking at her, like, and the way she looks at him too. Like, I feel like this is the first time that you really kind of get to see a lot of that chemistry between them.
They do have crazy chemistry.
They really do.
He's a handsome man.
He is. He is a handsome man.
Indeed.
And then Rory comes in and ruins the mood. No, I'm sorry. Rory comes in and she's, of course, in a horrible mood about, you know, finding out that everyone has been invited to her birthday. But when she sees that Lorelai actually had a good time with Emily, she doesn't want to say anything. She doesn't want to spoil her mom's good mood. Rory is so mature, because I would be like, you know, I'm glad you had a good time, but do you know what grandma did to me?
Me too. I would do that now as an adult. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm happy for you, Mom, but like, no, totally. She's just a kid. Like, how is she that mature? I can't wait to watch the show with Zoe, like when she's a little older, and establish ridiculous expectations for her behavior and her accomplishments in life. Can't you just live up to Rory? Although Rory becomes a hot mess later on, so maybe not. Oh, I wanted to point something out. I've been rewatching Seinfeld, just like when I'm like brushing my teeth at night and stuff like that, just getting ready for bed. And there was an episode where Elaine dates Luke, and he's very young and he's very handsome.
Yeah, I wonder what he looked like young.
It probably would have been maybe 95,
Okay.
95, 96. So just a few years before this, but he looked really young.
Next up, we see Lorelai entering Rory's room at 4:03 a.m., the exact time that Rory was born.
She climbs into bed with her and relives the experience moment by moment for her. And you can tell Rory has heard this probably every year for several years now because she finishes some of the sentences for Lorelai.
Lorelai recalls how some women say that giving birth is the most meaningful experience of your life, but she viewed it as something more akin to doing the splits on a crate of dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
Epidurals weren't regularly used until the 1970s, and when I and my middle brother were born in the 80s, our mom didn't have access to them. So God bless all you women who have had to have babies naturally, either by choice or just because you had to.
It blows my mind that women can survive the birthing process without drugs. I don't understand it. I couldn't do it. I'm a big weenie. I will put it out there. But like how I know women who chose to do it naturally. I was like very clear. I was like, you give me the epidural. You give me every drug you can give me under the sun. I'm like, I want to be conked out. I don't want to remember or feel anything. I don't know. I think they're miracle drugs. Next up, we see Rory and Lane entering Luke's diner for some breakfast before school. Luke directs them to a table where he has set up balloons and the coffee cake that he baked for her.
Which I thought was really sweet.
So sweet.
And I have a background catch here. Did anyone else notice that the balloons change and disappear throughout the whole scene? First, at around 16 minutes, 2 seconds, they're red, white, pink, and blue. And you can see that he wrote Happy Birthday, Rory on them. Then we get a close-up shot of the girls talking and they're gone. Then Dean walks in and he and Rory make goo-goo flirty eyes. And at 17:21, the balloons are pink, red, and blue and facing in different directions. Then at 17:30, when Dean leaves and mouths Happy Birthday, the balloons are gone again.
What?
Mm-hmm.
They're just gone?
They're gone. Yeah, probably because of like sight lines and stuff because of the cameras.
Oh.
But yeah.
That's so weird. And again, this is one of those things where I've seen the episode 1,000 times and I never noticed it. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Good catch.
Thanks.
In the next scene, we see party planning Emily, which is a different version of Emily, barking orders to the staff as they prepare for the party.
I would not want to work for her. I can guarantee that staff is not paid enough. I don't care how much it is, it's not enough. And I would also like to say that I would hate everything about this party, including all of these rich, random white people that she's obviously never met before in her life. But I would not hate the numerous envelopes inevitably filled with cash that she is receiving.
Oh my God, these people just like hand over money like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, the older you get, the more cash is appreciated as a gift.
You know? This is true.
So you know what, though? I was thinking about this, and I don't think that staff is being underpaid because actually there's an episode where Suki and Lorelai are running their Independence catering company, right? That's further along, season 4, I think. And then Suki mentions how well Emily pays her servants, right? And then Lorelai responds, you know why she pays so much? So she can torture you and you won't throw knives at her. So I'm guessing maybe those people are paid pretty well. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, she does have an awful lot of turnover, though.
She does. This is true. But that's her. She's firing people all the time.
That's true.
At this moment, Lorelai remarks on how Emily went all out for this party. And she states, I think Edith Wharton would have been proud and busy taking notes. And so I didn't know who Edith Wharton was, so I looked into it. According to Wikipedia, she was an American writer and designer who was born in the late 19th century. And then in 1921, she became the first woman to ever win a Pulitzer Prize for fiction for her 8th novel, The Age of Innocence, which is pretty famous. And she was also nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature. So she was kind of a big deal. But the reference that Lorelai makes here, I know, right? The reference Lorelai makes here is to that novel, The Age of Innocence, which is noted for Wharton's accurate portrayal of how the 19th century East Coast American upper class, a world that she was actually a part of, really lived. And the title, The Age of Innocence, is an ironic comment on the polished outward manners of New York society. Even though they're in Connecticut, this is basically New York society, when it's compared to sort of the inward machinations, right? What you see on the outside, what's really happening on the inside. And those of us who know this show well can certainly see how that describes Emily and her social circle as well.
Interesting. Well, next, Emily drags poor Rory away to say hello to her school friends. But of course, Rory doesn't know or like any of these people. Again, she wasn't the one who invited them. A couple of preppy boys from Chilton see her and they're like, who's that? And then another one's like, oh, I think maybe it's her party. And I mention this because I was watching this episode the other day with Mikey, my husband, who hasn't seen it all the way through. Mm-hmm. And his response was, oh my God, it's the Sociopath Club. And I don't know, just the way he said it, it was pretty funny.
Well, then suddenly Rory sees Paris Geller, who immediately says, my parents made me come.
And then that encounter is followed by another unwelcome face, Tristan Dugray. Ugh. Who is so creepy, trying to give her a birthday kiss. Ew, no. And then when Rory says, what is wrong with you? Mikey goes, yeah, what is wrong with you? I just love that man. And then Tristan declares his love for Rory, in a way that is clearly not genuine. And Rory replies, good luck with that. Then Richard walks in and asks who her friend is. And Rory comes back with one of my favorite lines of this episode. I don't know, but this is Tristan.
I love that line too. So clever. I don't know, but this is Tristan. As Rory walks away, we see that Paris was watching the entire exchange with Rory and Tristan, and her eye lingers longingly on Tristan as he walks away.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm. Like, how low does your self-esteem have to be to like a guy like that?
Poor Paris.
No.
Well, then Emily approaches Rory and tells her she has to say a few words to her guests. Just a little speech to say thank you.
At this point, Rory is already upset by having to deal with all these people she dislikes, and on her birthday, so she kind of blows up at Emily.
She raises her voice and says, I am not the hostess. You are. This is your party, and these are your guests, and I don't have anything to say to them, so you give the speech. And she storms off.
And Emily, of course, is humiliated by this. So in typical Emily fashion, not being able to control her own emotions, she lashes out at Lorelai as if it's all her fault and says in front of everyone, your daughter has no manners and you should be ashamed of yourself. She's such a jerk. Who reacts like that?
Seriously.
Oh, she's awful.
I feel like in this episode, you can really see that Emily is basically trying to pick up with Rory where she left off with Lorelai. Mm-hmm. And overall, Rory is a bit more receptive to this whole world than Lorelai ever was and continues to be throughout the series. And in this particular instance, though, the expectations of this world of Emily kind of took her by surprise. And as you mentioned, Ani, she treats her like she would have treated Lorelai in this situation. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't pan out very well.
No, she just has no, I mean, you already know what I think her disorder is, but
yeah,
it just doesn't regulate. She can't, any normal person, even if you're embarrassed in front of a group of people, your friends or whatever, you wouldn't just lash out at the next warm body that happens to be next to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's awful.
And it's not like she was like horribly rude. I mean, yeah, it was a little rude, but it's not like it was like in a small room. It's not like she was on stage and like, I don't know. Right? Lorelai finds Rory hiding out in her old room. And this is the first time that we see Lorelai's beloved dollhouse that will make an appearance much later in the series.
Lorelai shares a bit about what it was like growing up in that house. And she mentions the time when she finally told her parents about being pregnant and says, it was the only time they ever looked small to me. And this is a theme that we hear throughout the series many times from Lorelai, the size of her parents, specifically her father, who, as you know, is a big guy. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and him looking small when he's ill or when he's in the hospital. She mentions it several times throughout the series.
And Lorelai accurately predicts that Emily will come find them. And then when Rory tries to apologize, Emily cuts her off and just refuses to hear it.
And then back downstairs, Lorelai tries to be polite and thank Emily for the party, which At this point, if she was that rude to my kid, I would have been like, peace out, we're done, I'm gone, you know. She's trying, right? And we can clearly see that by this point, Emily has turned on refrigerator mode. She's got nothing. She's just completely flat.
And Rory tries once again to talk to her grandmother in order to apologize. But once again, Emily just cuts her off, which I thought was really, really rude. I mean, she is a 16-year-old girl. She was obviously uncomfortable at the thought of speaking in front of a room full of people she doesn't know and snapped a very minor snap. And Emily is being so childish.
So immature. It's awful. And you can just see, because Alexis Bledel is such a good actress, you know, you can see in her face, she's just, I don't know, crushed. It's so sad. And then after Richard says his goodbyes, Emily goes to see the girls off again, you know, just to politely see them off. And Rory tries to invite her grandparents to her second birthday party the following night.
And Emily very coolly says, well, that's very sweet, dear, but I'm afraid we already have plans, and just walks away. How can she so coldly say no to that face? Why doesn't she just kick a puppy while she's at it?
There's actually an episode. There's actually an episode where Lorelai's talking about her kicking a puppy, I'm pretty sure. Or kicked a pregnant woman or something. I don't know. Something horrible like that. Good time.
So mean.
She's awful. So Lorelai, clearly recognizing her mother's behavior for the personality disordered nonsense it is, tells Rory to head out to the car. And she goes to Emily and encourages her, tries again to get her to come to the party.
And Emily basically says, well, I already went to a party for my granddaughter and I was humiliated. So no. And she also reiterates that Rory has no manners, which we all know isn't true. The poor thing was trying to be a good sport about the whole thing, but even the nicest person has her limits.
And then Lorelai accuses Emily of doing to Rory what she always did to Lorelai, which was sort of a pattern of behavior of trying to control her. And then when that didn't work, just shutting her out.
And Emily tries to brush everything under the rug, says everything is fine and forgotten, which of course we know is not true. She's just avoiding talking about the problem, which is apparently what waspy people do.
I think that's true, right? They just pretend like everything's fine.
I think so.
Personality disordered people do that as well. And then after some back and forth, including some very deft defensive maneuvers from Emily, such as, oh, so I'm a villain now, Lorelai states, you don't know her. You've never tried to know her, just like you never knew me.
And then I had a question, which is, so when Emily insists that she knows who Lorelai is, and then ultimately she's going to realize that she doesn't, who does she think Lorelai was? Like, what does she have in her head that she thinks Lorelai is?
Well, just given what I know from the show, I would imagine the story she has told herself about Lorelai is that she is this ungrateful brat who doesn't love her family, who didn't care about obligation, which is a big thing in their world, and who cared more about her own independence than her parents' feelings. So, you know, that's the story she's been telling herself for 16 years or maybe 15 years. And once you start telling yourself a story, it's hard to break out of it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I was just always kind of trying to like wonder, like, I mean, I knew like in her mind she was this like kind of like a boogeyman kind of, you know, like just this like horrible like monster, you know, that didn't want, you know, that selfish and, you know, all this stuff that didn't want anything to do with her parents. But then like when she sees the people and the life that she has in Stars Hollow and how much she means to all those people, you know, then I feel like, which, you know, we're going to see, you know, then she starts to realize that, oh, she's not what I thought she was.
Right. So exactly. Yeah. And I don't know her. And it's so sad I mean, myself as a mother, I can't even imagine being estranged from Zoe and just not getting to know who she really is as she gets older. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, Emily bristles at that because, of course, it's true, but she's never wanted to admit it. But she's going to come face to face with that truth by the end of this episode. And, of course, she has to throw around how much money and time she spent on this party, which no one asked her to do and no one wanted her to do. No one wanted this party. Emily forced them to come. She forced this party. This is all on her, but she refuses to take responsibility for that.
Of course. No, it can never be her fault.
And then just one quick note here. The next scene is a short scene, and we see Suki at the girls' house in the kitchen prepping for the party. Lorelai and Rory are there as well. It's probably a continuity error, but her two band-aids have moved from her middle finger to her ring finger.
That's so funny. And has enough time passed that it could be a different injury?
It could be, but they're like the same color band-aids.
Oh my gosh, that's a big continuity error. That's so funny. Isn't there someone's job, like entire job, is to check for those things?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, well, you failed, lady. So next we see Rory at a college fair, heading over to the Harvard table, of course, where she encounters Paris yet again.
We discovered that Paris is going to Harvard because 10 generations of Gellers have gone there. And as an aside, this later turns into 5 generations.
Yeah, I was thinking 10 generations. That's like a million years. That's like 150 years, isn't it? Which I guess makes sense. Harvard has been around a long time.
But then I saw something too that was saying like that can't be right because Geller, like they were Jewish and Jews weren't allowed into Harvard until a certain point. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when that was exactly, but
that's amazing. I didn't know. Well, didn't Harvard start out as like a Christian school? Or am I completely making that up?
No, probably because it's been around since like the 1600s. So,
oh my God, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. So the two of the girls agree that, they're both going to go there, but Harvard is a pretty big school. They realistically won't be running into each other very much.
I enjoyed this scene. I thought it was kind of cute. It was like they formed a truce, like a fight,
Exactly.
And then Paris asks Rory if she's dating Tristan. She seems relieved when she finds out that Rory is not dating Tristan. And then Paris turns to leave. She attempts to be uncharacteristically friendly and says to Rory, "Hey, nice party." What do we think is up with that? Like, why is she all of a sudden being kind of nice and friendly?
I've thought about that a lot. I spend a lot of time thinking about this show. I honestly think, we know because we know the show that Paris actually has a good heart, and she's raised by horrible people in a horribly competitive environment. So you kind of become what people expect you to be, right? Mm-hmm. But I think she recognizes that Rory is a good person too. And she doesn't really have friends. Like Madeline and Louise are her, whatever you want to call them, but they're not really friends. And so I think she recognizes in Rory like a kindred spirit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And then also, like, you had to be blind to not see that Rory was having a miserable time at that party. Mm-hmm. And, I think Paris probably noticed that too.
Yeah.
And has been in that situation many times herself.
Right.
And so I think that she's probably like, oh, hey, I know exactly how she's feeling there. And then to see that, oh, hey, she's not interested in Tristan. So that's, one less thing that we have to be competitive about.
Right. That's a good point. Well, the next scene is Rory's real birthday party, where she's surrounded by her real friends and actually having fun.
Rory opens the epic gift from her mom, and it's a MacBook. And I wanted one of those so bad when they came out. And of course, she got the color that I wanted to, that like teal blue. And they were so expensive. She's right when she tells her mom they're too expensive. They were like $1,500 back in the day.
For a laptop?
And that was 20 years ago. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, that's kind of Apple's MO though, right? They release something super, super expensive at first and then bring it down.
Yeah.
I love Lorelai's exclamation here. She goes, "It's blue and it has a handle," which is exactly and exclusively what would have gone into the selection process for me as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That was RAM speed. Yeah. I don't care about any, whatever. It's blue and it has a handle.
I knew nothing about Mac. I just knew that they had pretty computers. That was all I cared about.
I've always wondered why these companies don't make nicer colors. Why is everything gray and black? Boring.
I know. Did you notice that after Rory blows out the candles of her cake and Lorelai proposes a toast, the glass that she's holding is a Powerpuff Girls glass?
I did not. How cute is that? Which one? Does it have all 3 girls or just one?
It's the green one.
I forget her name, but Zoe has recently been watching that show. Yeah, it's a great show.
I've only seen a couple episodes, so like I don't know their names or anything, but
I know Bubbles is the blue one, but I forget the rest of them. I like Bubbles because she's crazy. But yeah, it's actually a pretty good show. Like for the time period, I feel like it was very advanced.
That's good. Yeah, like I said, I've seen a couple from when I was babysitting, and it wasn't bad. So I just thought that was interesting. And then everybody else has pink Solo cups, but she's got a Powerpuff Girls glass.
I think it's interesting that she chose the green one though, because knowing them, they probably have the whole set. But like the green one is the angry one, the one who's like dark.
Is that the one Zoe likes?
Probably.
Well, suddenly Richard and Emily arrive to everyone's surprise, and Rory is so excited they came, and it appears all the ugliness from the day before has fully been swept under the rug.
Lorelai goes into the kitchen to tell Suki that her parents are there, and we find out that they have never before visited that house.
Emily comes into the kitchen to compliment the caterer, and this is the first time she meets Suki. She tells her that she has to cater her next party, despite having just been told by Lorelai that Suki already has a full-time job as the chef of the Independence Inn.
Emily just kind of stares blankly at Lorelai, like, what's your point? I'm guessing in her mind, she's thinking, so she has a job, so what? She's clearly a servant here. Wouldn't she want more work? Rich people.
Suki informs Lorelai that they're out of ice, so Lorelai is about to head out and go get some more. But at just that moment, Luke arrives with 2 giant bags of ice.
And something really weird happens here. Lorelai is so excited that she doesn't have to go out and get ice. Yay. She throws her arms around Luke's neck and gives him a big hug and says, "You're the best." This is not the nature of their relationship. I don't think they ever even touch each other again until the dance in season 4. And I may be wrong about that, and please let us know, but I know for a fact they're not physically affectionate with each other while they're just friends.
So I think it's a compilation of a bunch of things, because you can see that he's kind of surprised, but he did enjoy it. So she's probably on that party high that extroverts like her have.
Yeah.
Not the exhaustion that introverts like us experience.
Right.
And she's also probably had a few drinks, and she's super relieved that she doesn't have to leave the party to get ice. And then obviously they needed Emily to see that physical contact.
Right. Because it is a show after all. They're not real people.
Right. It's hard to remember that sometimes. And then Emily, of course, sees this hug, and Lorelai introduces them, and Emily gives Lorelai a knowing look about it. And then I thought this was really sweet. Rory finds Richard sitting outside and brings him a couple of magazines, including Cosmo, to read in lieu of the paper to entertain himself. And I just thought it was a really sweet little moment, especially when Richard and Emily go to leave, and he proudly declares to Rory that he discovered he is an autumn from reading the Cosmo article.
The quiz. He must have taken the quiz. He goes, "I am an autumn." And Rory goes, "Interesting." I don't know what the hell that means, but it's so cute.
I thought it was cute.
So everyone is sitting around in the living room, reminiscing about their memories of Rory growing up. And they all seem to know so much about her life. And it's really apparent that they love her so much.
We see Emily in the background looking somewhat sad. She wanders upstairs to Lorelai's room, rather rudely, I thought. And Lorelai follows her up there. Emily inquires about Luke and says he seems to like you based on how he looked at her.
When Lorelai asks how he looked at her, Emily says, like you were about to give him a lap dance.
And this clearly tickles Lorelai a bit, but she tells her mother she's crazy to think all that about Luke.
I have to say, as an aside, Luke is a gentleman and a feminist, and he would never accept a lap dance. I'm just throwing that out there. She's not, whatever. It's just a look. But still, as evidenced by, you remember that episode is one of my favorite episodes ever. Season 4, episode 20, Luke can see her face. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
The lap is an illusion. A lap is an illusion. Yeah. So Luke would not accept a lap dance. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, maybe from Lorelai.
Maybe from Lorelai. But still.
Emily then finds a picture of Lorelai with a giant cast on one of her legs and walking on crutches. And we find out that Lorelai actually had broken her leg 3 years ago during a rather intense and apparently competitive yoga class.
Because that's what you do in yoga.
Yeah, apparently.
Right? So Emily she's clearly upset that she never found out about this. She never knew. Even though Lorelai tries to play it down like, it wasn't a really big deal. But I'm sorry, breaking your leg and having that giant cast and crutches, that is a big deal.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt bad for Emily there. Yeah. Like, she should have known. And then as Emily goes to leave the room, Lorelai thanks her for coming to the party, and they both agree that it's right for Rory's grandmother to participate in her life more.
Yeah, that was sweet. So we see Richard and Emily in their car preparing to leave, and Emily says, sadly, she's right. I don't know my daughter at all. And I think it's a really great example of how the actress Kelly Bishop so beautifully plays this character, because one minute you want to strangle her because she's horrible, and then the next you feel so sad for her and everything that she's required to be in order to live in her world.
Mikey said that exact same thing.
How so?
Just like what you just said there, that she's such a fantastic actress, and that Emily is such a complex character.
Yes, she really is.
Well, then in the next scene, we see Rory and Dean hiding in the shadows, and Dean gives her the famous bracelet as her birthday gift.
And the very easy to amaze Rory says, "It's amazing." Really? He bought a silver coin, he drilled a hole in it, and he put a piece of leather cord through it. Wow.
But now, I am actually going to stand up for Dean right now.
Of course you are.
He handmade a gift.
Yeah.
What teenage boy does something like that?
My teenage boyfriend did. It's not that amazing.
To me, I guess I don't think of a teenage boy doing something thoughtful like that, like making a handmade gift.
I guess so. It is sweet. Yeah.
Mikey was like, "Damn it, Dean."
Why?
Because he's like, we never know if we're going to get sweet romantic Dean or jealous angry Dean.
Oh, right. He does have issues.
Mm-hmm. So then Dean ties the bracelet on her wrist and they hold hands, and we see that Lorelai has been watching them through the kitchen window, and she does not look pleased.
I think she's a bit shell-shocked because she's used to Rory telling her everything, and they're normally very open with each other. But now suddenly Rory's skulking away into the shadows with the secret boy, and the relationship is clearly advanced enough that he's giving her a gift and they're holding hands. This isn't someone she just met. And plus, we know from the first episode that there was a mysterious boy that made Rory doubt whether she wanted to go to Chilton.
Mm-hmm. And so Lorelai must have a million things running through her mind, including, what else don't I know about? How far along is this? Why has she been lying to me?
Yeah, awful. As a mom, I would be like, oh my God. And of course, my mind would immediately go to, I need to get her on the pill. That would be the next thing I would think. Yeah, panic. Well, that was Rory's birthday parties.
We hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time for season 1, episode 7, Kiss and Tell.
Copper boom.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your friends.
If you have any questions or comments, if you feel like we left anything out or got anything wrong, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Gilmore Gals Pod. And we also have a Facebook page.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes.
Copper boom!